What appeared on that courtroom screen would be replayed over 75 million times and completely destroy a woman who thought she'd gotten away with the perfect scam. The silence that followed lasted exactly 11 seconds, and in those 11 seconds, everyone watching knew they were witnessing something historic. Karen Whitmore sat at the plaintiff's table radiating confidence. Expensive pantsuit, manicured nails, that dismissive expression that screamed, "This will be easy." She was suing an 81-year-old man named Frank Morrison for $8,500, claiming he'd crashed into her car, refused to pay for damages, and caused her emotional distress. Frank sat hunched in the defendant's chair, wearing a worn cardigan and thick glasses, his weathered hand shaking slightly as he held a brown paper folder that looked like it had been through a washing machine. He looked exactly like what Karen was counting on, a confused old man with no evidence, no chance, and no way to fight back. Karen's lawyer whispered something to her, and she actually laughed out loud, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed through the courtroom. What Karen didn't know was that inside Frank's beaten-up folder was a USB drive. And on that USB drive was footage that would prove everything Karen said was a calculated, deliberate lie. When Judge Judy said, "Let's see what Mr. Morrison has," and that screen lit up behind the bench, the entire courtroom went silent, and Karen's face went from smug satisfaction to absolute terror in less than 3 seconds. Before I show you the exact moment when that screen destroyed Karen's entire case and exposed her fraud in front of millions of people, drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever seen someone underestimate an older person and immediately regret it, or if you love watching technology prove exactly who's lying, absolutely smash that subscribe button. What happens when that screen turns on is the most devastating evidence reveal in Judge Judy history. Here's how an 81-year-old retired teacher ended up being sued by a scam artist. 3 months earlier, Frank had been driving home from his weekly grocery trip, carefully following every traffic law like he'd done for 60 years of driving without a single accident. He stopped at a red light at the intersection of Maple and 5th Street, waiting patiently behind 2 other cars. That's when Karen rear-ended him. Not hard, just a light tap that barely jostled his car forward. Frank got out to check for damage. There was a tiny scuff mark on his rear bumper, nothing on her front bumper at all. Karen was apologetic. "I'm so sorry, I was distracted for just a second. Are you okay? Is there any damage?" Frank, being a kind man who didn't want to make a fuss, said, "I'm fine and the car is fine. These things happen. Let's just both be more careful." They exchanged information and went their separate ways. Frank thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, Frank received a letter from Karen's lawyer. She was claiming that Frank had suddenly slammed on his brakes for no reason, causing her to crash into him. She was suing for $5,000 in vehicle damage, $2,000 in medical bills for whiplash, and $500 for emotional distress and lost work. Frank was stunned. He called Karen to explain there must be some mistake. She had hit him, not the other way around, and there was barely any contact at all. Karen's response was cold. "That's not what happened, and I have witnesses." "You're an old man with a bad memory. My lawyer says you'll probably just settle to avoid court. Save yourself the stress and pay me what you owe." Frank didn't have $8,500. He lived on a fixed Social Security income. His hand shook as he read the lawsuit papers, knowing he was telling the truth but terrified that no one would believe him over a confident younger woman with an expensive lawyer. But Frank had something Karen didn't know about. Something he'd installed in his car 6 months ago after his daughter had given it to him as a birthday present. Worried about his safety on the roads, a Dashcam recording everything, every drive, every stop, every intersection. Frank found a legal aid lawyer who helped him file his response. He carefully transferred the Dashcam footage to a USB drive, labeled it in his neat teacher's handwriting, and put it in a folder for court. When Karen's lawyers saw that Frank was actually going to fight the lawsuit, they tried to get him to settle for $3,000. "Save yourself the embarrassment of court," they said. Frank refused, because he knew the truth, and he had proof. Judge Judy opened with her characteristic directness. "Ms. Whitmore, you're suing Mr. Morrison for $8,500. Tell me what happened." Karen's performance was polished. Her voice trembled at just the right moments. "Your Honor, I was driving normally when Mr. Morrison suddenly slammed on his brakes for no reason. I couldn't stop in time. The impact gave me whiplash and damaged my vehicle. When I tried to get him to take responsibility, he refused and claimed I was lying." She pulled out professional-looking body shop estimates and medical records. "I have documentation of all my damages. My doctor diagnosed whiplash and recommended physical therapy. My car needed extensive repairs, and this entire situation has caused me severe stress." Karen gestured toward Frank with practiced sympathy. I understand he's elderly, and maybe his memory isn't what it used to be, but I can't be expected to pay for an accident he caused just because he doesn't remember it correctly. Judge Judy turned to Frank. Mr. Morrison, what's your response? Frank's voice was quiet but steady. Your Honor, that's not what happened. She hit me, not hard, light. I told her it was okay. There was almost no damage. Then 2 weeks later, she sued me. Karen actually scoffed. Your Honor, he has no evidence. It's his word against mine, and I have medical records and repair estimates. This is clearly an elderly man who's confused about what happened. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. Mr. Morrison, do you have any evidence? Frank held up his worn folder with shaking hands. Yes, Your Honor, I have a video. Karen's lawyer leaned over and whispered something. Karen actually laughed, that sharp, dismissive sound. She turned to her lawyer and said, loud enough for the microphones to catch. There's no way he has a video. Look at him. He probably doesn't even know how to use a cell phone. The courtroom murmured. Judge Judy's expression hardened. Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Morrison is speaking. You'll have your chance to respond, Frank continued, his voice stronger now. My daughter gave me a Dashcam for my birthday. It was recording during the accident. I have the whole thing on video. Karen's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Her lawyer looked less confident. Your Honor, Karen said smoothly, even if he has some video, it probably doesn't show what he thinks it shows. People see what they want to see, especially when... Let's watch it, Judge Judy interrupted. Bailiff, please set up the video. Frank handed over his USB drive with trembling hands. The bailiff inserted it into the courtroom's media system. The large screen behind Judge Judy's bench flickered to life, and the entire courtroom went completely silent. The dashcam footage was crystal clear. The timestamp showed the date and time. Frank's speedometer visible at the bottom of the frame. The intersection ahead, the red light, 2 cars in front of him. The video showed Frank slowing gradually, smoothly, coming to a complete stop behind the car in front of him. 3 full seconds of complete stillness, then Karen's car entered the frame from behind and bumped into Frank's rear bumper. A light tap. Barely any impact, the audio picked up Frank putting his car in park, his soft "oh dear" as he prepared to get out. But then came the part that made the entire courtroom gasp. The video clearly showed Karen getting out of her car, looking around the intersection carefully, checking for cameras, checking for witnesses, and then looking directly at Frank with an expression that wasn't apologetic at all. It was calculating. Judge Judy paused the video. Mrs. Whitmore, what were you looking for when you were scanning the intersection? Karen's face had gone pale. I was just checking traffic, making sure, while stopped at a red light, after an accident you supposedly weren't expecting. I was disoriented from the impact. Judge Judy pressed play again. The audio was perfect. Karen's voice crystal clear. I'm so sorry. I was distracted for just a second. Are you okay? Is there any damage? Frank's response. I'm fine and the car is fine. These things happen. Karen, thank you for being so understanding. I really appreciate it. Judge Judy stopped the video again. That sounds like you accepting fault, Ms. Whitmore. Your case is dismissed. Furthermore, you will pay Mr. Morrison $2,500 for his legal fees and the stress you put him through with this fraudulent lawsuit. And Ms. Whitmore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for insurance fraud and perjury. Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. You thought an 81-year-old man would be an easy target. You thought he wouldn't have evidence. You thought wrong. This court is adjourned. The bailiff led a stunned Karen out. Frank's hands were still shaking, but now from relief. An 81-year-old man with a dashcam had just taken down a scam artist on national television. The clip hit 75 million views in a week. Never underestimate dashcam. Grandpa trended worldwide. Karen faced criminal insurance fraud charges. Her car insurance dropped her. 3 other people came forward claiming she'd tried similar scams on them. Frank became a local hero. His daughter's dashcam gift had saved him from financial ruin. Technology plus truth equals justice. If this made you smile, destroy that like button. Comment dashcams don't lie. If technology just saved the day, subscribe for more evidence reveals. Next, Karen claims a